Today's episode, Monika Jansen is joining us. Monika founded Jansen Communications in 2009 and has helped all kinds of businesses by providing them with copywriting and social media services. Jansen Communications is a boutique agency that helps small to medium-sized businesses grow and hit their business goals. Thank you for speaking with me today, Monika.
Thanks for having me, John. I've been looking forward to this.
Well, I know there's a lot that we want to talk about, so let's just get right into it. Tell us, the listeners, a little bit about yourself and what do people know you by?
Sure. Yeah. So actually, the title on my business card is Head Kick-Ass Copywriter and Strategist at Jansen Communications. So people definitely remember that. You know, when you have your own business, you can kind of have whatever title you want.
That's true. Very true.
So we definitely have a sense of humor. So people know me for that. But they know me as a really phenomenal copywriter because at the core of who I am, you know, professionally, I'm a writer. And I have built my agency on the shoulders of copywriting. And of course, when you get into marketing, copywriting means content marketing. But we're definitely known as phenomenal bloggers and email marketers, social media marketers.
Okay. So tell us a little about like, how did you get into this profession? Did you grow up wanting to kind of do this?
I did not actually. The last thing that I remember wanting to be when I grew up was a landscape architect, and that was probably elementary school. And obviously, I do something very, very different from that now. But I majored in marketing in college. I just found it a fascinating field. How do you connect with people, get them excited about what you sell or what you do, and convince them to spend money with you? There's actually a lot of psychology behind marketing. But yeah, I don't know if marketing chose me or I chose marketing, but it was a good choice.
So right after school, did you work at different companies before you started your agency, or how did you get?
I did. I kind of bounced around in my 20s. So when I graduated from college in 1997, the economy was not very good and finding a job was not very easy. So I ended up taking the first job that was offered to me, which was actually in the corporate world. I lasted for 5 months. Like, I am just not a corporate person. You know, so I quickly learned, you know, the corporate world is not for me. Then I went into marketing. I actually did find a job in marketing for a tech startup. And they were actually way ahead of their time. It's a shame they're not around anymore. But anyway, I didn't like working in an office. Like, I didn't like having to kind of punch in and punch out 9 to 5. I definitely wanted a lot more freedom. So I actually started my first company when I was 24. Oh, wow. And then we moved. I went back into working, you know, for someone else, became a mom, started my second company when I was 33. So I just kind of figured things out on my own.
And I guess over time, life happens, right? So yeah. I think, you know, it's never a good time, but it's never a bad time as well. And you pick your time, especially if you're self-employed and you want to be an entrepreneur, right? You got to figure things out. So this is your second company that you started?
Yes. So my first company, it was a small business. I was a personal chef. It was just me.
Oh, very cool.
So this is very, very different. Obviously, you know, I'm running a marketing agency. So it's very different from being a personal chef. But a lot of the fundamentals, you know, to running a small business and growing a small business are the same no matter what you do.
So how long have you had this company now for?
So since 2009 is when I officially launched Jansen Communications.
Over 10.
So it's been 10 years. Yep, exactly. But before that, I did do some freelance work here and there.
Okay.
I just decided, in 2009, all right, we're going to turn this into, a real company.
No, that's amazing. So growing up, were there people that kind of inspired you to become an entrepreneur or kind of do some side hustles to become your own boss? Like, how did you?
No, funny enough, no. My dad worked for IBM.
Okay.
That was his whole career. And, think back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s. A lot of people worked for one company,
Yes.
their entire life. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom when I was growing up. So I didn't have any, immediate role models. But I was born in January. I'm an Aquarius, and we're very march to the beat of our own drummer. So I think a lot of my entrepreneurial instincts are like literally part of who I am.
Oh, that's amazing. So, throughout these different career jobs that you've had, you gravitated towards marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that transition from corporate to your own company, and why did you choose small business over corporate marketing?
So, so the thing with, let me answer that last question first. The thing with running an agency instead of doing marketing within a large corporation is you get a lot of variety.
Okay.
I also get to fire clients, which I have done. You don't have that kind of latitude in the corporate environment. And obviously working, for one company, you're just doing marketing for that company, for its various business units, what have you. So I like the variety. You cannot get bored. Not that I would have gotten bored, in a corporate marketing role. So now I forgot your other questions that you were going to ask, or that you had asked.
Over the years, the careers, positions, if you had, you've worked in corporate and then you gravitate towards more the small business owner scale, right?
Yeah.
Was it because you didn't just like going into the office? Was it more the people,
So my first job out of college in the corporate world, that lasted 5 months, was with an institutional wealth management company in Boston. A phenomenal company. Unfortunately, I was the assistant to a dragon lady. I couldn't get away from her. I mean, she was my boss. She actually made me physically sick. So this is a horrible first experience, right? Working in the corporate world. The things I've learned about working with small business owners, and we also work a lot with VPs of marketing, directors of marketing, that sort of, within larger companies. But working with small business owners, there's a lot more flexibility. You're talking to the decision maker most of the time. Yeah. And so we can do things faster. I'm impatient by nature. So I like to, if you say, hey, I want to do this, I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm going to go do it right now, and I'll have it back to you tomorrow. Yeah. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy that pace.
And that's what I found while working in corporate as well. Like, it takes months of planning or budgeting, especially in a very large company. I mean, you have to forecast, budget, and then plan, and then it gets vetoed by the board. These are big projects versus the small, medium-sized business. Yeah, you deal with decision makers. The other good thing is they pay you once it's done right away, versus some of these big corporate, it takes months to even go after them or get paid in full, right? So there's pros and cons to all of it. Yeah, there might be a larger budget in the big corporate. However, small, medium-sized business, it just moves so much faster.
It does.
Much more
nimble. It does. Yeah, it's much more gratifying. You can see the fruits of your labor very quickly. Exactly. And that's one of the motivations, right, of working, is to see, no matter what your job is, no matter what industry you're in. It's really gratifying to see the impact that your work is having.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're passionate, right?
Yeah.
And doing what you love.
Yep.
So in terms of pivoting, I know you kind of moved away from corporate, had a family, then kind of this is your second kind of, startup company, right? Business. Um, did you have to obtain like coaches, mentors? Did you follow, like, did you go to any mastermind classes? Like, how did you stay motivated, and who got you to where you are today?
Yeah, that is actually a really great question. So I worked with my first coach maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. No, I'd say 5 years ago. She was a management consultant. And I say was, I mean, she still exists and she still does coaching, but she's narrowed her focus to hiring only. But she helped me put processes in place, not just around hiring, but around running my company. Like, I'm not an operations person. It had never been taught to me. She taught me operations, basically. Before that, I was in, I don't know if I would call it a mastermind, but I belonged to an organization here in the DC area that arranged, it was for women business owners only. And I was part of a peer group. So every 2 months, I would meet with my peer group and we would work on a different aspect of our business. And it was very specific. I mean, we had worksheets to do. This wasn't fuzzy at all. This was, it was hard work, actually, but very specific to running and growing a business. And that definitely started providing some of the structure and some of the education that I had never received either in college or on the job, working for different companies.
No, that's great insight, because some of these entrepreneurs starting off, right? They don't know, like, it's a very lonely space. I mean,
it is.
Especially if you think you know what you're doing, you really don't, right? As much training and schooling and videos you watch and speaking to people, I mean, until you're doing it yourself, you really have no idea what you're getting yourself into, right?
Completely abstract.
But
it is completely abstract.
It's good that you're telling us, like, there are groups out there, there are communities out there that are supportive, right?
Yeah.
But if you're kind of doing it on your own and thinking that everything you can do yourself, you can't. There's people out there that can support you, and there are aspects in your business that can be refined and be more productive and become more efficient. Like you mentioned, processes in place. Like, I learned a little bit while I was in corporate in terms of how to structure certain departments. However, I didn't know how to refine the processes to streamline the costs and efficiencies. There's software out there, there's systems in place. And until you have those in place, then you can focus on what you love doing and do it very well, and let other people or let these systems do the other things, at tasks that you don't like doing.
Yeah. To our listeners, you can't see me, but I've been nodding my head the entire time John has been talking. So yes, John, you completely hit the nail on the head. And I'm still learning. Learning doesn't stop until you're dead. To be honest with you, I'm constantly reading, and talking to people, asking questions, asking for help, asking for advice.
Exactly.
One person can't be expected to know everything. That's completely unrealistic.
And the more vulnerable you are, I think, the more likelihood that you're willing to get, ask for help or find people that are willing to assist you, right? Like, you can't know everything. And even though you position yourself as an expert or whatnot, there's smarter people out there. Right?
Oh yeah. There's always someone smarter than you, which is very humbling, and it's very true. I've seen it, and I'm happy to admit it. because I'm better at some things than they are, right? You always have to, just stay open-minded. Don't start shutting down advice or people or whatever.
Exactly.
The other thing I was going to say is people are extremely happy to help if you ask for help. They're
Yes.
happy to help. Now, they might not have time to talk to you today, but maybe, next week or next month. But there's no harm in asking for help.
And without asking, you don't even know, right? It's very similar to, in my mindset, sales, right?
Yeah.
There's, the people that aren't successful don't even try. They don't even make an effort to pick up the phone or call someone, right? But the ones that do, at least they have a chance to win that sale over, right? It's a very similar situation as entrepreneurs, right? People think they need to do everything themselves. They do self-taught, they do courses, they read, watch, whatever. However, there's only so much time in the day, and you can only do so much in, especially
there's 24 hours in a day.
You can't do everything. No. And as a business owner, you seem to realize like you're good at certain things and just do what you're good at or you enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
And let other people do things that you may not really enjoy because, just pay them well and they'll be happy to take care of that aspect out of your hands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So another question. So in terms of some of the challenges that you faced in your career, your business, what were they and how did you overcome them?
So I think the biggest challenge was really figuring out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be as a professional. Because marketing is a very big umbrella term, right? There's a lot of different aspects to marketing. It was when I realized, oh my God, I'm a writer at heart. And I nurtured my copywriting, skills. It was like a light bulb moment went off. And I was able to figure out, what my passion was, and what I was really, really good at. They're not always the same thing. So I'm lucky that my passion is the thing that I'm best at. So I'd have to say that's the biggest challenge so far in my career. Now, if we talk about challenges running a business, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, we could be here for a couple hours.
Maybe mention a couple of the early challenges that you've had in terms of running a business as well, because, everyone makes mistakes, right? And how did you overcome them and what do you do differently today?
Yeah. I've made tons of mistakes and I still make mistakes. I'm not perfect and no one is, perfection doesn't exist in this world. So I'd say one of my biggest mistakes was working with a client who was mean, who caused me and my team a lot of stress, and who thought paying invoices was optional. I really should have fired her a lot sooner than I did. So the lesson learned there is don't be afraid to fire a client if they're not worth the time and the aggravation. No amount of money is worth the aggravation and the stress that anyone can bring. I don't care if this person is paying or supposed to be paying you $100,000 a month. It's not worth it if you can't sleep at night. And if the people on your team are actually afraid to pick up the phone and call her.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I've had this happen multiple times. I mean, they're reaching out for your service. You're the expert. And yet they're, dictating how you should run your business. I mean, it's just not fair, right? It's like, know so much, go do it yourself, right? I mean, right. Especially when they think they know more than you or, and then they don't even pay you for your time, right? Like, every business owner realizes that as well.
Yeah.
They take some time.
She did finally, she did finally pay us, but we had to employ what we called we started calling it the nuclear option, and we still refer to it as nuclear option. We took 3 months worth of social media posts. And then she paid us, which that's why we called it the nuclear option, but it was in our right to do that because we still owned the copyright to everything that we had created because she hadn't paid for it. So it's worth it to have an attorney. I don't care what the hourly rate of that attorney is. In these situations, you need to have an attorney.
Yes, definitely. And then you kind of realize who your ideal customers are as well, right? And you have a persona in place where these are your ideal. However, there are exceptions to every case, right? And you basically look for clients that are fitting your core values and what you're looking for as a client, because you're the business owner, you're in control. You either want to work with them or not, right? And once you realize that, people are willing to pay for your service and they can't do it themselves, well, you have to understand, like, you have something there, right?
I'm so glad that you actually brought that up, John, because I think that's a very big mistake small business owners continually make, is not deciding who their ideal client is. And one of the factors that we consider actually is budget.
Yes.
Our ideal client needs to have the budget to pay for what, they're asking us for. Now, if they don't, it's up to you to decide, okay, well, why don't we break this big project into small pieces and we do a small piece at a time, right? But anyway, you are in control, and you are in control of making those decisions. And don't forget, we've already talked about firing clients. You can fire clients.
Exactly. And I think early on, even when I started, I just took on every single client, not knowing who was my ideal customer and which ones were going to pay or not, right? You were just hungry in having revenue to support my staff, to support my family. Like, there's a needs portion of it. And then once you kind of start scaling or growing, then you realize and grow as a business owner, like, these are my good clients. What do they look like? Let's look for more of them. And then devise a plan to go out and get more of those type of clients.
Yeah. And actually it makes it so much easier for people to send you referrals when you're very specific about who your ideal client is. So if, when you're at a networking event or just, talking to vendors or, other business partners, they can very easily say, oh, I know someone who fits that description. Let me make an introduction.
Yeah. And I think a referral, again, there's good and bad referrals, but most of my type of clients now, they tell me that they're afraid to make referrals if that referral is not a good fit for me, right? So they look at themselves as an ideal customer, and then they're like, is that the person that I want to refer to? Because my name's going to look bad and I don't want to ruin that relationship I have with the company, right? So it's an interesting scenario because, referrals are great, but some of them are not the greatest. But you'll soon realize which ones are good and bad. And I always call the customer who did refer and find out a little more, about the history of who they are, what situation they're in, and et cetera. So
and definitely have that conversation before you talk to this potential client or customer, and make sure that they are in fact a good referral for you. So I try to do that. I mean, with some of the people that I work with all the time, I already know, this is going to be a good introduction. But if I'm not sure, I always ask. I'll shoot like Nicole a note and say, hey, I have this potential referral for you. Here's what they're looking for. What do you think? And she either, she'll give me a yes or a no, and then I can make the introduction or not.
No, that's great. So in terms of advice you can give people who are starting off running a business, I know there were some mistakes or setbacks, but
Mm-hmm.
what kind of advice can you give people in terms of entrepreneurs been doing it for a couple years or not, like just thinking of
Mm-hmm.
starting? You've been doing it for over 10 years now. Um,
Yeah.
you know, what
Yeah.
kind of
So,
advice can you give?
um, let's see, how many hours do we have? No, I'm just kidding. I remember how I said earlier that a lot of fundamentals to running a business are the same. So some of these things are really fundamental to running a profitable, business. Get a great accountant who acts as your CFO. Now, his or her title is not going to be CFO, but you want that kind of CFO mindset where they're not just, doing your taxes. They're actually looking at your books and making recommendations. So for instance, hey, Monica, I noticed that your expenses are really high in this one category for the quarter. What's going on there? It's just so helpful to have someone looking out for your best interests from a financial perspective. Also, never, ever undercharge for work and never work for free, ever. Now, the exception, of course, is if you have agreed to do some pro bono work, for a nonprofit. But yeah, don't undercharge, don't work for free. If you think about an attorney, a law firm, have you ever heard of a lawyer working for free? No. They track literally every minute that they're doing work for your company, right? If it's a 10-minute phone call, if it's reviewing language in a letter for 20 minutes, they are billing you.
Yes.
And you should be doing the same exact thing. I don't care if this is your first month in business. If you start giving away your work for free, people are going to undervalue you or not value you at all. And that sets off a relationship with a new client on really the wrong footing at
No,
all.
those are really good key advice because being financially savvy in terms of knowing what your costs are, what your break-even margins are,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you're worth. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm lucky because I studied finance and I'm more of a numbers person. My wife's an accountant, so
Uh-huh.
I'm lucky in that sense. But for instance, any business owner who is not strong in numbers, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you should really learn financial, just knowing your numbers, right? Because
Oh my God, yeah.
if you're not, I mean, you could be running in debt month after month and not knowing
Mm-hmm.
where everything goes, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very similar to like setting your financial health of your own personal
Mm-hmm.
finances, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
if you
Absolutely.
do want to
Absolutely.
buy a home or if you want to save for a big trip, you
Mm-hmm.
need to know how much you should be saving on a monthly basis, budgeting. Like all these things become stuck in nature. And once you've been doing it for many, many years, it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a business, I mean, it's the same sort of fundamentals, but
Yep.
it's so important. It's probably one of the most important things that I kind of take for granted because I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing it all this time. But for new entrepreneurs that aren't strong in numbers or accounting,
Mm-hmm.
get educated in that front, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, you could find yourself working for free.
Yeah.
So you actually need to know how many hours are you putting into every project, and are you getting compensated for all of those hours? And definitely, what are your margins and what are your expenses, and can you reduce expenses to increase your profitability? But also, when you have an accountant who acts as your CFO, he or she will help you reduce your tax liability.
Yes, exactly.
That's huge.
Exactly. And then in terms of like just making sure that you're getting good clients that are willing to pay you what you're
Mm-hmm.
worth. I know at the beginning you might not be worth, or you might not think you're worth a lot. However, it's good to know what your competitors are doing,
Oh my gosh,
know
yes.
how much you're charging and how
Yep,
much you should be charging,
same services.
and adapt and pivot and change, right? Because things change in the marketplace. You have to really understand what your go to market value prop is, and it may change for every customer. It may not be. I don't know if it's a streamlined service that you offer, but you have to be adaptable in this marketplace, right? If you want to
Oh
win
my gosh, yeah.
customers over.
If I could offer one more piece of advice, and
Yes.
I've kind of mentioned this already, but work with an attorney on your proposals and contract language, because you want to make sure that you are protected.
Yes. That's very important as well. So setting things up, I mean, this is procedure, right? Especially if you're a service-based company. If you're a product-based company, there might not be that kind of contractual agreement. And it might be just online, right? Where you need to specify what's the warranty or the exchange or all that.
Yep.
But
What are
it's
the
good to,
parameters around that?
exactly. So it's good to just set things up. However, the other downfall is you might not have a budget, or you might not have the funds at the beginning. So make that fun.
Yep.
Make it happen, because it's
Yes.
very
This does
important.
not, do not skimp. And you know what? Even if you're selling products, you still need to have contracts in place with your vendors who are
Suppliers.
creating those products, right? So it might not be client-facing contracts, but the vendors are critical to the success of your business.
Very true. So tell us a little bit about some of the, you've been running a business for 10 plus years. There's been advancements in technology, right?
Yes.
Software.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How has that improved, changed the way you worked? And if you can name some of them that you use to really work more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, overall, with the advancement in technology, it's gotten a lot easier and less expensive to launch a small business, right? So you can use a DIY website builder like Squarespace or Wix to get even just a one-page website up. So you have some sort of a web presence when you're getting going. There's great email marketing platforms out there, and they teach you how to use email effectively for your business. You're not just getting or you're not entering like these new areas without a little hand holding, let's say. So that is, really fantastic. I mean, the things that you can do today that you couldn't do 20 years ago are really incredible. So in terms of like some of the different apps that we use, my entire team is remote. So we rely on Slack for instant messaging. And I know Slack is like super, super popular. But the one thing that I will say is you have to have parameters around like what do you discuss on Slack versus email, right? Yeah. So Slack messages are just a lot of like quick check-ins. It's hey, I just talked to this client. Can you give me a call so we can go over some things? Or it's anything that doesn't have to be traceable by email, without a trail. That's how we use Slack. So it frees up our inboxes quite a bit. We use Google for business as our email client. We store a lot of documents in Google Drive that everyone in the company has access to, like background information on clients, some marketing materials, that sort of thing. So it's a nice central repository. We use QuickBooks Online for invoicing, and we use Asana for task management. Yeah. And remember, I'm a marketer, right? Like I had to learn operations, and Asana has been amazing. I literally don't have it. I don't use pen and paper anymore. Yeah. Everything that I have to do, all of my to-do lists are in Asana.
I think the key here is, as a home-based business or remote with all your staff. And it's very similar to my business as well. Everyone is home-based.
Yep.
I use very similar software. There's a lot of different tools out there, right?
Yep.
Just make sure that you're on the lookout for what's best for you. There's different tools that would be good for different purposes, different people. Asana, there's Bootcamp, there's Active Collab, there's a lot out there. For CRMs, there's Zoho, there's Salesforce, whatever works.
Slightly, yep.
And then there's, even for the email platform, you don't have to have G Suites, right? You can have any form of email, and whatever works for you is great, right? Shared depository, Google Drive is great, OneDrive is great, Dropbox is great. Whatever works is great, right? Even for like Slack, there's Trello, you can even use a Skype. It doesn't really matter as long as everyone's on it and you know what the purpose is and it's easy to communicate. Because the key is when everyone's remote, there's communication issues, right? And you don't really know what's going on in everyone's daily task and what's going on, right? So especially if you're a business owner, you want to make sure that they're actually working and they're productive. Right?
And this is the big thing. This is one of the reasons we use Asana, is because everyone is expected to put in their tasks for all of their clients, because we have, by we, I mean me, I have had issues with people on my team not doing the work, even though they said they were doing it. So this helps eliminate it. But you have to figure out what's going to work for you, because we all work differently. Our brains work differently. But as a business owner, if you decide that this app is the one that you like, then sorry, everybody else, you're going to have to learn how to love it.
Exactly. And I mean, there's that honesty and trust thing that goes on with remote workers, but there's also time tracking and screenshot tracking, and there's a lot of tools out there that can help you monitor, but you got to be careful. There's sensitive things that some employees might not like, or they you just have to figure it out, right? But it works because there's so much out there, and if you use it to your advantage, it could really help you become way more productive, right?
Absolutely.
So in terms of, I know you mentioned you kind of had this mastermind group that you went to, right? Every 2 months, but do you still do networking events? And what kind of events do you still attend? And do you find value in meeting people at these events?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still absolutely do networking. I try to go to 1 or 2 events a month.
Oh, very good.
I don't always do that but I'll be honest, it's hard to find really good events. I've been to so many networking events where people are just trying to sell you. It's like, it's sex with strangers. You meet someone immediately and they want you to buy what they're selling, even though they have no idea what you actually need. So I mean, some of the events that have stood out for me, just based on who my ideal client is, are events hosted by chambers of commerce. Okay. You have typically have a great mix of people who are both, new small business owners, seasoned entrepreneurs, and representatives from larger companies. So it's a really nice mix of people, but really networking is all about, for me, getting out there, meeting new people, listening to them, what they do, what they need. And hey, if I can connect them to someone who does that thing that they need help with, I am more than happy to do it. And in fact, someone that I met at a networking event in June or July, so it was the beginning of the summer, I have connected him to one of our new clients, and it's a phenomenal client for him. So look, we just met a few months ago, and already we have a really strong relationship. Now, he's not buying from me, I'm not buying from him, but we're working together. That's what networking is all about.
No, it's great. I think you hit it in the nail where you don't have to go out there looking for business. It's about
No,
looking to help people. And the
exactly.
more you give, the more you connect, the more you're out there present, the more opportunities are going to come your way. And yes, it's going to be like karma,
Hmm.
right? The more you give, eventually things will come back in, big impact, right? And
Yep.
once you find a good groove, because networking is not for everyone either, right? Like people might not be, comfortable in front of crowds or going to live events. But it's like sales. You have to go out there and be present, be the face if you really want to make something happen with your company, right? Like staying at home doing
Yep.
nothing
And
is
if you're
not
a
going to
small
change
business
anything.
owner, yep, not at all. Yeah. If you're a small business owner, one of your main jobs is sales, it's business development. And like we talked about earlier, people are really, really happy to help you.
Exactly.
They are happy to help you. And yeah, I mean, not, some people are extremely introverted, but that doesn't mean you're a bad networker. I mean, some of the best networkers I know are introverted. And in fact, I am 50% introvert and 50% extrovert, which is why I don't go to tons of networking events. I know I need a balance. I do need quiet time to refuel. But even if you're shy, it does not mean you're a bad networker. It's about having one-on-one conversations and listening to what people are saying.
Yeah, I. It's interesting because a couple of years ago, I actually had a goal to go to as many networking events as possible locally. So I live in Toronto, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to, I believe, 15 to 20 in 1 month. Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
this was before I had my son, and
Yeah.
I had time, right? So for me,
Right.
it was a test to see what kind of people were at these events, who can I connect with,
Mm-hmm.
and how can obviously learn what's out there, right? Because
Yep.
I've never kind of done it before. What I learned was there's a lot of real estate agents out there and
Oh
a
my
lot of
God.
mortgage brokers
Yes, a
and
lot of insurance people.
insurance.
Uh-huh.
So it's the same sort of crowd, but then you kind of learn which events to go to and gravitate towards. The ones that are paid are typically a little bit more organized, better structure, and has a little bit more quality of people,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
free ones, I mean, anyone can go to it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then once you kind of have like a vertical niche, like an association that you want to attend, they even become way better quality, right? Or an interest that you actually are interested in, right? So you have something in common. So I
Mhm.
always tell people, if you're networking, find something you actually want to learn about or you have interest in that is like more of a hobby. Do it for the passion of wanting to do it and not for business purpose, right?
Right.
Because if you take it on that note where you don't want to just get business out of it and you're
Mhm.
learning or getting something, helping others, then it's a win-win, right? Because end of the
Mhm.
day, you're going to be much happier.
Mhm.
And another thing I wanted to mention was even last year I started doing a lot of speaking events, right?
Mhm.
And I held a lot and I started speaking at more events, right? And I didn't go in wanting to speak to get customers. I wanted to learn how to do good public speaking. So I read a lot of TED Talks. I wanted to learn about, storytelling and
Yep.
getting out there, being more presentable and confident and, just learning how to be good at something that's new that I was kind of had a fear of, right? Like people are fearful of public speaking. But once you get over that hurdle, it becomes second nature. And now I'm very confident where I've spoken at 100 people venue or 50 people or a couple hundred because it's the same thing. It's, there's people that actually position your position as the expert and they listen, right? And
Mhm.
there's nothing they can judge about because they know less than you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's as long as you're having fun, ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. And don't bore people with horrible PowerPoint
Oh
presentations.
yeah. Well, the more uh personal you become, like, and it's
Yeah.
practice as well, right? Like
Yeah.
people that don't really do a lot of presentations, like it's a little bit different than
Yeah.
someone that actually practices and trains. And someone just like in sales or any profession, you got to keep doing it and practicing to refine your art and be more confident. And very similar to our podcast show, right? Me and Roger, we've done over 100 podcasts. So before we started interviewing people, we want to be confident and comfortable speaking in a mic, right? So just like anything, just feel what you want to learn and enjoy and get better and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So another question I had was, what drove you to become who you are? And what kind of motivates you, and what's your passion and purpose today versus how it was, or was it different 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like 15 years ago, oh my gosh, let's see, I would have been 29. um, and I still didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do. So yeah, so I've changed a lot. That's when I let my career become a backseat. So my daughter would have been 2 years old. So I was really a stay-at-home mom. So anyway, so to fast forward to today, the thing that drives me actually is freedom. There's a lot of freedom in being a small business owner. And I know that whatever I put into the company, I will get back. I mean, a lot of people think that or say that work-life balance is bullshit and unattainable. And I completely disagree. You do have to give up something or some things, plural, to have balance in your life. I am not a workaholic. I mean, I love what I do. Obviously, I have a company, and I'm passionate about it. But it's not my life. There's so much more to me and to my life. I'm married. I've got 2 teenagers. We have a dog. I prefer to be outside than inside. If it's winter, I want to be snowboarding, not tethered to my desk, So it's really having the freedom to live the life that I want and structure in a way that provides me with balance.
No,
That is a
great
huge
answer.
motivator.
So freedom is such a big, thing for every entrepreneur or just every person, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
having the luxury to clock in and clock out, especially of your employees now too, right? Like it's really, they're handling your clients as well as you. But when you're able to clock out, you don't have to worry, right?
Right.
Because you're your own boss. So it's very similar to in my situation. At 5 o'clock, it's me and my son time, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
family is so important to me, and that's why you're
Yeah.
building something,
Sacred time. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a really good answer, and that pivots me to the next question
Mm.
very nicely, which is, aside from business, what are some of the other pillars that you believe have molded you to become who you are? Family, your health,
Mm-hmm.
community
Yeah.
contribution. Do you give back yourself? Like what about those situations?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky that I grew up with great parents and 2 fantastic brothers. And we were very close growing up. We did a lot of stuff together,
Yeah.
traveling, going to the beach, skiing, what have you. And I really I'm still close with my parents and my brothers and now my sisters-in-law. I've got 2 sisters-in-law. I'm still very close with them. And so I was determined to have a family similar where we do a lot of fun things together. And yet, I do have 2 teenagers, but we are very close and they do share stuff with me, which is wonderful. So even though it's, oh my God, raising teenagers is not for the faint of heart. And you'll see that one day, John. But it's so nice to see like how much they trust me and how much they do love being a part of our family, even when they're acting like animals. So yeah, family is huge. It definitely helped shape my worldview on a lot of things. I do give back to the community. I'm actually the chair of the Women in Business Initiative Advisory Board at George Mason University's School of Business. And our main goal is to support female business students through scholarships, and then secondary through mentorship programs, internships, that sort of thing. And it's wonderful to be in a position to be able to, give back and help students navigate, that life. I'm not saying this right. Figure out what they want to do. They want to, and make their dreams come true. So one of the cool things about George Mason University is it's a very young public university in the Commonwealth of Virginia here in the States. And a lot of the students there are first-time college attendees in their family. Like, they're the first to go to college. A lot of them are first generation. And a lot of them work full and part-time while going to school, full or part-time. So these are really, really deserving kids. They're very, very motivated. The other thing that's really important to me, and I mentioned that before, is being outside. I love being physically active. I love being outside. And that's a huge part of my life.
No, I mean, these are really good life points, right? Because you have to take care of your health. You have to take care of your family. And these pillars are so critical to happiness in general.
Sorry, I did not silence my phone. Sorry about that.
And even giving back to the community. I mean, I'm starting to, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now, mentoring, and I have a backpack program where I give to new immigrants. For me, it's like that kind of stuff is much more rewarding than the business I'm in and doing the business, because I'm impacting a larger audience and people that are more deserving, right? It's great that business owners want to become successful and I can help them, guide them and whatnot. But people that aren't in that situation and can't or never can be, and you're able to make a difference, a small difference, but a difference, it means so much, right?
It does. It does. And one of the really neat things that I just learned about the impact that our scholarships have on the students who receive them at George Mason University. We actually looked up to see what the in-state tuition was. And our scholarships cover half of one semester's tuition.
That's amazing.
So we were like, oh my God, we didn't know. We literally did not know that. And that was so cool, because we thought we were having a small impact, where these two need and merit-based scholarships that we award every year are actually fairly significant.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, making a difference, right? And it doesn't have to be donating a lot of money, or it doesn't have to be huge, right? Think small, make a difference in one person. Whatever it is, it's the most rewarding and most gratifying feeling when you're able to help out.
It is.
So, I mean, I know we talked about a lot of things here over the course of almost 1 hour. So how do some of the listeners get a hold of you and learn a little bit more about your business, Monika?
Sure. So you can go to my website. So it's Jansen Communications, Jansen. The website URL is actually jansencom.com. So jansencom.com. You can also definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm a very active user on there. So just look for Monika C, middle initial C, Jansen. My first name is spelled with a K to make it a little harder for you. But yeah, those are definitely two of the best places to go.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Monika. Great to have you on our show. And we'll stay in touch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, John.
Thank you.